Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment of the weekend show. A couple of days ago, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, came out and gave a speech as a result of the NSAS protest and the vandalism and chaos which we had seen started in different parts of the country. Now, following that, the Vice President had also released a couple of statements. It's important to note that the Vice President had stated that all the states have been informed to set up independent judicial committees by the National Human Rights Commission to look into the cases which were brought up by the protesters who protested for the NSAS. However, we've had several reactions, and so we will be discussing the President's speech on this segment. But just to start, I have the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission, Tony Ojukwu, on the line to start this conversation. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thanks for taking out time to speak to us. I understand we had to pull you out of a meeting, so I'll go straight to it. I learned a couple of weeks ago that a list of people, a committee was set up to look into the issues which the NSAS protesters were talking about. However, at the launch, I noticed some people weren't there, and in some states, we've also had some people pull out. Can you tell us about the composition of these panels that have been set up and the current status?
Yeah, thank you very much. The panel is constituted in such a way that it will cut across the vital stakeholders. And the vital stakeholders of a committee like this would be the Nigerian Bar Association, the civil society, the young people, and then, of course, the National Human Rights Commission. You'll also have the Police Service Commission, which is in charge of disciplining area police officers, as well as the representative of the Nigerian police, because there is need to have correct information of an organization before you take decisions affected it. And all these sectors were adequately represented in the panel to do the job. So the panel is well equipped to deal with the issues arising from the panel. And let me correct the impression that what the National Economic Council decided is that the state government should all set up investigation panels into SARS. And National Human Rights Commission is a member of all the state panels of inquiry. Now, the idea is that you can see the volume of complaints and accusations against the SARS and the police. If you set up only one panel at Abuja, that means that panel will have to go from state to state to listen to these complaints. And when the panel is in one state, the other state will be waiting, and people's patience will be stretched and so on and so forth. But the wisdom of government, and to show how serious government is about it, it says, okay, National Human Rights Commission should be represented in all the states, and we have offices in the 36 states of the country, including Abuja. So why not we set up panels in all the states that can listen to complaints of Nigerians in all the states, so that everybody will be assuaged, everybody will be assured that they are receiving government attention, and of course, it is better. A lot of people will have more opportunity to increase the access Nigerians to make their complaints. You can see how overwhelming the complaints were. It cut across all states of the country. So if you have only one panel in Abuja by National Human Rights Commission, that means that panel will be moving from state to state. Even if they move one day, or if it takes 1 month or 2 weeks, you can imagine how long it will take to go around all this. So it is wisdom. It is really a sign of seriousness. It's really a sign of sincerity. It's a sign of openness to decide to have that panels of inquiry going on in all the states at the same time. Now, National Human Rights Commission will collect all these reports of the state panels. And you don't forget that even though some of them needed to get implemented at the federal level, because the police is the federal institution. So if it's a matter of discipline or any other action, it will have to be taken at the federal level. But if it's a matter of prosecution and compensation and other things, the state can deal with that. So the decentralization of the panel is a good strategy to deal with the situation at hand. And I encourage all Nigerians to support this panel, to file their petitions, because unless your petition is before the panel, nobody can hear you. Nobody will know you have a problem. Nobody will know you have a problem. So I really encourage, now that the panels are at the doorstep of every Nigerian, nobody will have excuse again not to lay complaints for the panel.
Barrister Ojukwu, I have 2 questions before I let you go. This is not the first time such panels have been set up. I recall that I think in 2018 and 19, the National Human Rights Commission had a panel to look into the same issues, and there was a report. So, number 1, what's the timeline for this current panel set up to present their report? And 2, does the Human Rights Commission have any faith to think that this would actually be looked into and recommendations will be implemented, saying that this has been done time without number? So is this just an activity, and is there a timeline to when this will be concluded?
The timeline for this panel is 6 months. That has been stated clearly. So all the panels must complete their action within the next 6 months and submit their comprehensive report to the government. Now, as for former panels, you recall that the ongoing government of SARS now was recommended by the former presidential panel of the inquiry. You also recall that the passage and signing of the new Police Act 2020 was part of the recommendations of the former panel. Now, you have seen that the National Human Rights Commission has given the names of officers who are indicted for prosecution to the Attorney General. The list is already given to the Attorney General, and they are working on it. Prosecution is a process, and those people to be prosecuted will have to give a hearing. The National Human Rights Commission has also given the list of officers to be disciplined, those to be dismissed, those to be demoted and or reduced in rank, and so on and so forth. This has been passed on to Police Service Commission and the Inspector General of Police. The National Human Rights Commission has also released the list of those who are entitled to compensation. About 264 million was the compensation awarded by the presidential panel. And you can see Lagos State alone has already provided 200 million to be used to pay compensation to this. And all the state panels of inquiry have been requested. Also, all the state governments have also been requested to set up about 200 million to pay compensation that will arise from all these complaints. So there is clear evidence that this is different from the past. This is going to be addressed immediately, and this is the mood of the nation now. This is the mood of the moment, and federal government is already responding to the mood of the moment by these initiatives that are included. I think we should trust the system. Let us start rebuilding the distrust, and the implementation of the report of the implementation of the recommendations of this ongoing panel will further confirm that government is serious about the implementation of this reform, and then that will help us to completely remove the issue of the trust deficit in this panel of inquiry.
Thank you very much, Barrister Tony Ojukwu, the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission. We will be in touch with you and follow up on the progress of these panels to see, to hold you accountable and to see how far we've gone. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much, and have a lovely day.
And you too. In the studio with me, I have Martin Obono, who's a barrister, a human rights activist, and team lead TAP Initiative. Welcome back to the Weekend Show. You've been here before. I wanted us to start with the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission. What's your take on what he has just said?
So first off, I think I actually want to say that it is very important that at least government has initiated a step to hear people. It is a different thing entirely for people to want to just speak, and then it's also another thing for government to also listen and provide an avenue for them to speak. However, when these panels have been set up, you're going to be hearing the same things you've been hearing. you're going to hear the same complaints that people have made before. And the question for me is, what next? Once you hear these things people have told you countless times about police brutality, they've told you things about how SARS have brutalized people and killed and maimed people, and even forced disappearance that has taken place in time past. Now, what is going to be the way forward? That is the biggest question for me. So it is important. So it seems like it's a very good PR for government at the moment to say we want to set up judicial panels of inquiry across the 36 states, including FCT 37. And oh, we applaud and we are happy and excited about that. It sounds like good PR to them. But to the people who are being killed, who are at the receiving end, how does this change the narrative for them? So that, for me, is the biggest question as to implementation.
I'll come back to you, Martin. I have Dr. Apoki Charles joining us virtually. So during the NSAS protest, there was a video of some gentleman in the rain who was advising young people that you need to strategize, you need to know what you're doing, because if you don't, it will get taken over by hoodlums, and then there will be a government crackdown, and then the military will be brought in. Dr. Apoki Charles, you were the Nostradamus of this, because yes, other people said this, but you came out and recorded that video and you told us all of this. And so everything you said has happened. And I'm guessing that's because of most of the older generation have had this experience from previous military administrations. And so it was quite predictable in the 80s, in the 90s, and then now. Now the president has come forth to give a speech. What's your feel and take of the president's speech on the current situation, Dr. Apoki?
I have known President Buhari since when I was 23 years old in medical school. I've known him when I was a resident doctor at PH in his first emergence as president. I did not expect anything less, not expect anything more. I was typical Buhari's speech, and I expected empathy for those who have been injured, who were killed, if eventually it is proven. And I believe that a lot of what we have seen points to the fact that people were injured and people were killed. But the truth of the matter is that the president's speech is a reflection of an endemic problem in Nigeria. Even from Obasanjo that made the broadcast. You remember Obasanjo destroyed OD using Malo, and Malo's community, Zaki Biam, was eventually destroyed. Number one, Nigeria has no respect for human life, no respect. And you see, the SARS and whatever is an endemic symptom, endemic average Nigerian. So Nigeria has no value for human life, even in our budget. The European cow gets $2.2 subsidy every day. 40 to 60 million Nigerians live on $1.9 daily. So you see that the European cow is of more value to the UK, to the EU, than a Nigerian human being. The budget for a Nigerian for health random is $7.2 something. The budget for a cow in Europe, as I just said, is subsidy is just $2.25 per day. So you see, these people have been, Nigerians have been deprived. The killing of people by SARS, why did the commissioner not react earlier on? Number two, the lawyers in this country, why didn't they react earlier on? Is it now that they're going to sue the army? So Nigerians don't have value for life. When you see, I hate violence and looting. But you see, a lot of the second generation, the second set of rioters or demonstrators or looters are the base of the pyramid. You see, the structures they are attacking them impulsively. They feel neglected, feel deprived. But you see, they still have some level of value. The Fege police station in Fege, there is a DPO there called Garba. They did not attack his station. When they got there with fuel and matches, the man came out and addressed them. And they started hailing him because he plays table tennis with them. He's a very compassionate person. He's a very reasonable DPO. He's not an Igbo man. So the issue is not North, South, and tribe. The issue is that a lot of Nigerians have been oppressed over the years, A lot of Nigerians feel that government is not sensitive enough. Why is it that it is now the president is coming to speak? Even the man from the National Assembly that came to talk to these youth was talking very arrogantly. These are not mean men. They are the stars we have, talking to them very arrogant. And the children asked him, who are you? Who are you? Until Nigerians, including doctors like me, a patient comes, he is sick, you won't attend to him. You see, so until we have value for human life, until we have respect for the Nigerian citizen, until we negate some of the inequalities in this country. I schooled with the son of the secretary to the federal government, S.G. Agodo. I schooled with Obono's children. I schooled with Judge Ojukwu's daughter. I schooled with Rewane's children. My father was a refuse collector. Until we bring social justice to the issues at stake, the president's speech will not do anything. All these panels they are setting up will end up in the dustbin. Kunle Adepoju was killed in the University of Ibadan before I came there. Akintunde Ojo was killed by police. Dele Udo was killed by police. Nothing happened. Police fractured the hands of doctors during COVID-19. In fact, more people died from the bullets and the injuries they sustained from policemen during the early lockdown than COVID-19 itself. So we have this culture of impunity, nothing they happen. We have this culture of treating people as if they are second-class citizens in their own country. The president's speech did not address any of those issues, and I tell you the truth, even the police, you see, how can a policeman live in a barrack that looks like a poultry? The A division in Warri was there when I was a child. Today it looks like a poultry. I've preached in several army barracks around the country. You cannot expect a Nigerian soldier to compete with an American soldier if he lives there. One of the problems we have in this country is insincerity of purpose. Are they sincere with these panels? Are they sincere with COVID-19 palliatives and we saw them stuck in warehouses and people went there to carry them? So you see, I don't expect anything different from what has happened in the time past. I'm not a young man, I'm 61 years old. I have chronicled the history of protests and government directives and whatever. That's why I could predict it effectively, correctly.
So in line with your predictions, Dr. Apoki, because I like that you've chronicled it, and what you've also done is to put to fact that it's not just the young people who are protesting. This is a national situation, and it goes from governance to systemic issues and institutionalized problems, which we have had. Now, all of this has happened, and because you predicted a lot of things and they had happened, what's the way forward, especially for the young people who, most of them didn't experience what you experienced, what our parents experienced, which explains why most people in the older generation were like, be careful, they're supposed to speak into the problem. So first of all, credit to you for addressing it and saying this has been happening from time and everybody is affected, but what's the way forward? One, for the young people, and two, for the nation.
If you go to my blog, Dr. Apoki's blog, you will see a write-up I did on a new narrative for Nigeria. Number one, there's too much concentration in the center. I don't want Nigeria to divide. Our population is an economic advantage, it's a military advantage, it's everything. Now, we should have a presidential panel, a presidential council of presidents from the 6 geographic political zones. We should not have national parties. Contest and compete for presidency in your different zones so that we don't bring tension into the center again. We have a presidential council that each person, spokesman from his own zone, will rule for 2 years. So if it was for 2 years and for 12 years, Buhari will not have to come and be here a second time. Goodluck Jonathan had his own time, he had his own shortcomings. So if you have a presidential council that you are elected from the zones and they come together, you will find out that there is no tension and this tribal tension we create in this country. If a president from a zone is not performing well, his zone can recall him. Number two, we need to have only one House of Representatives. The salary of legislators and the executive arm is a great burden on this nation and its development. I saw a senator just shouting on a journalist on channels or one thing yesterday. It's the same arrogance they have. The burden of the senators, the House of Representatives, our legislators in the states and our governors is too much. Can you imagine somebody receiving pension as a governor, receive pension as a senator, receive pension as, receive salary as NDDC chairman or whatever? The burden on us is too much. If we decentralize it, each part of the country will develop at their own pace. And then the cost of contesting election will be far reduced. You will not discuss, go to Ebonyi State. I was passing Ebonyi State by 3 a.m. when I went for missionary work at the Cameroon border. You won't believe that Ebonyi State is in Nigeria. Once we have this decentralized system, we can now allocate portfolios to the 6 presidents: defense, internal affairs, petroleum resources, petroleum, works, and one other ministry, I can't remember.
Dr. Apoki, because of time, Dr. Apoki, sorry for cutting you short once again, but because of time, I want to hear your final words to the young people. Yes, you've made some points on governance, and it'll be good for you to tell us the link to your blog so people could go check that out. But for the young people who are now pretty much in a state of hopelessness, according to tweets and what we've seen online, what do you have to say to them?
I want to tell the young people that 2023 is an opportunity for them to form a political party. I want to pray that INEC will register it. Poverty does not know North, does not know South, does not know East, does not know Christian, does not know Muslim. I want the youths in this country to unite, form a political party, be able to contest elections at the central level and at their state level, but they should be wise enough, because they are the problems of this country in the sense that my wicked generation, if we give them 1,000 naira, they're ready to sell their ballots for us. They should know that their ballot is their strength. And I want to say that the looting and the burning of national assets should stop. They should be more strategic in the contest against my generation. My generation is a wicked generation. And they should make sure they build the Nigeria they want. They demonstrated in the Lekki Gate where they were sweeping the streets, feeding each other. They should make sure that they don't repeat the mistakes and the wickedness of my generation and build a classless society. I just said I went to school with the son of the secretary to the the federal government. Let them know that they have a burden on their heads to build a new nation.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Apoki. Thanks, and keep on speaking for the people, and thank you for your time. Martin, you've heard the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission. You've heard Dr. Apoki, who had some powerful things to say. The President's speech, your take on it, and just in closing, what's the way forward?
Okay, so there are 3 things. When a man speaks, he speaks from the belly of his, of who he is. You know, he speaks from the depth of everything that he stands for. And if you listen to the President's speech, he made 3 emphases. First is he made emphasis and laid blame on the Nigerian police. And the second was to practically trash the Nigerian people, to say, young people, because we allowed you to protest. I mean, we allowed you to protest. Protest is not what you allow people to do. Protest is people's innate rights. If you're beating me, I have the right to cry. And so it's not on you to tell me you are allowing me or you permit me to do that. I have to do that as a form of reaction. So protest is supposed to not make you comfortable. So when he goes about saying your protest is making people uncomfortable and we are going to stop you, or we are going to prevent you from protesting. Protest, the idea of protest is to make you uncomfortable. So if I'm protesting and you're not comfortable with my protest, then my protest is useless. So when Nigerian people or when young people decided to block the streets and cause discomfort in the society and across the country, and the economic loss that was that followed it, it just meant that the protest gained ground.
So what's the way forward?
And so the way forward is basically that, like Dr. Apoki said, we need to add value. We need to bring back the value of the Nigerian life. And we need a president or a country or a government that actually places premium on the lives of Nigerians. Now, soldiers have opened fire on people. Who are those people? that gave the order? Who were the people who opened fire? This is the beginning of the way forward. Let people be held accountable for their actions or for their misdeeds. Let people be held accountable for whatever orders they gave. This is the way forward. Let us start from justice. Because at the end of the day, all we are saying, if there is no justice, if people cannot feel a sense of justice for whatever wrongs they have suffered, there will be no country in the long run. So let us go back to the drawing board and place premium on the lives of Nigerians, and let those who have been brutalized, who have suffered some form of loss as a result of the government's actions in the last 2 weeks, let them pay a price for that. And that is the only way we can get a way forward, and we can chart a new course for the nation. And as a president, when you address people and you don't give them a sense of hope, you don't appeal to them. The job of a president is the biggest public relations job ever. You are supposed to give people hope. You're supposed to let people understand that you are with them. You're not supposed to come and talk down on Nigerians. You're not supposed, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility and duty is to make sure, that's why people use the expression, the father of the nation, because in the real sense, you are supposed to carry the burden of the people. So the way forward is that we need a more sensible and sensitive leadership. We need justice. People who have committed these heinous crimes of firing live ammunitions at people, even the COVID people, okay, so the rule of proportionality, people went to invade food that belongs to them, food that was donated to them, and the governments in most of the states, Cross River, Oshun, Ondo, Lagos, carried this food and hid them. And what you had to do was to shoot live ammunitions at them.
Martin, unfortunately, I've run out of time. And so we'll bring you back to have this conversation. But I hear your comments on justice. I hear your comments on people who were brutalized and all of that, having some form of remedy, and something should be done, and the government has to be responsible and act with empathy. Unfortunately, we can't bring you our electoral reform segment today, but we will do that next week, and that's the most we can take. That's all we can take on this show today. My name is Andy Madaki. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, Andy Madaki. You can also follow the Weekend Show, as we will be continuing this conversation on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Weekend Show NG. From us on the Weekend Show, the views of our guests reflect their views and not the opinions of the station or the program. However, we do enjoin all Nigerians to remain peaceful, to remain calm, and stay away from violence, as we also still ask for accountability and responsibility from the government. Until next week, we'll be back on the Weekend Show. Have a lovely weekend and stay safe.